Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome to a best of 7 series of top-level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is another Team League match. It's time for ONSYDE to take on the Shopify Rebellion. We're in the top left-hand corner in game number 1. We have the highest-ranked Terran player on the planet. The Terran player who's always up in the debate for greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. We're looking inside of the main base of Maru. Indeed, now once again representing ONSYDE. I'll get to that in just a moment. His opponent in this particular game, playing with the blue collars, we have none other than Bjorn. So this is a best of 7 series that was recently played during the WardiTV Season 10 of the Team League. A very exciting format because we effectively have 4 players going up against 4 other players. So this very first game right here is going to indeed be a Terran versus Terran, but the matches after this, I mean, maybe we're going to get another TVT, I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to be different players. We're going to start with some 1v1s, but soon we will be moving on as well to a 2 versus 2. So effectively as a team, you get to send out players for each of the individual maps, and then if you end up winning, well, 4 for your team as a team, you end up moving on in the tournament. So as far as the teams go, right, we have Team ONSYDE. So this used to be Team Vitality. Actually, Team Vitality used to be Team ONSYDE back in 2024. They became Vitality, and then very recently, with Vitality basically stepping away from StarCraft 2, sadly, they have once more been running the name ONSYDE. But for ONSYDE, we have Maru, we have Ryung, we have Zaun, and then Christianer. And for the Shopify Rebellion, we have Bjorn, Harstem, Lambo, and Scarlet. So these should be some really fun games. I'm excited for it. I'm assuming we're going to get everybody out in the games, although I don't think you necessarily need everybody to play. I mean, if you feel like somebody else would make a better, I don't know, a better opponent, I guess it is, well, maybe possible to not send out everybody. I don't know. We're going to find out together. Either way, we're starting off with a good old TVT. Now, what I've really liked so far about casting these Team League matches is that we get some players that I don't necessarily cover all too frequently. Obviously, that's not really the case here for Maru and Bjorn. I cast both of them all the freaking time, especially whenever I can get my hands on Maru replays. Those are always on top of my list to cast, but it's been fun at least to, for example, have a look at the other team recently that went up against Basilisk with the, what are they called again? The Balls of Steel? Yeah, the Russian players. That was very interesting. Honestly, a very unexpected result as well. But of course, we also get some 2 versus 2 and, well, maybe even some matchups as well that I don't necessarily cover all too often. At least historically, the mirror matchups have never really been that popular. I always enjoy watching them. I always like casting them. But I do know that when I upload like a best of 7 of Terran versus Terran, many people will immediately tune away. But yeah, we'll see if that's going to be the case as well, I suppose, when a Team League starts off with a TVT. But we have Zergs, we have Protoss. All of the matchups here, all of the different matchups will likely be coming up momentarily. Alrighty, now Bjorn opening up with a very safe start here. He's got some Hellions, he's got that Raven already up in the air. Maru wants to be the aggressor in this particular game. Now, both players have expanded. This is mostly just Maru testing the waters. There's some really nice positions for siege tanks. Yeah, so he is indeed going to be sieging it up right over there on Winter Madness. Okay, Hellions do get a reasonable line of fire. At this point, the main issue is that tank in the back. The Marines and the Hellions here are easy to snipe. Yeah, the question mostly is, when do you commit? Now, he can throw down some auto turrets, which I think he will do. There we go. The auto turrets, indeed, are gonna not quite snipe the tank. Not quite snipe the medevac. Maru snatches those units up. He needs to be careful, though, because that Cyclone can lock on. Sadly, right there for Bjorn. Nice pickup by Maru. The lock-on went onto the Marine, and he didn't even quite snipe it. Siege tank has been retargeted. He really does not want to lose that medevac, though, with units inside of it. Maru trying to see if he can get maximum amounts of value and get this first game of the best of 7 over with within just a few minutes. But Bjorn's micro just, well, good enough to hang on for now. The orbital command itself is even taking a lot of damage right here. Should not be something that does end up falling. Obviously, you can fly it up into the air as well. Now, a defensive tank is available for Bjorn. SCVs are going to embrace the orbital to keep it running. And Maru just showing off that, yeah, maybe it's Bjorn, right, who's known as Micro Jackson, but certainly never count this red Terran player out either. There's a reason that he is, well, the most earningest Terran player of all time. Can you say that in English? If you can't, I feel like we should be able to. He is the most earning assist of all Terran players ever. Yeah, not a bad record to hold. The siege tanks are going to get a nice little touch-up. The medevac, the Viking, and all of the other mechanical units too. That means that this Terran force will be ready to fight another day. In the meantime, though, Maru did go for a third command center. And we have one coming here for Björn. But that is the real effectiveness behind this particular attack. Maru's squeezing out an extra CC. Björn didn't quite realize that that was the case. He decided to just focus all of his resources on defense. And, well, then you end up in a situation like the one we're in right now, where Maru is going to be able to grab a really nice economical advantage. Plus, the siege tank count is plenty big enough to really prevent Björn from moving in. I mean, Björn still is running away. I mean, this is not really an army that he can easily take on, but usually, right, if you're the one getting all of your resources spent on economy, usually that also indicates that you have to be the more defensive player. Maru, though, just trying to fish for freebies here and maybe trying to scare his opponent a little bit. Ultimately, he is going to drive back home, whilst he is selecting, indeed, the third command center to go on over towards that third mineral line. He's hoping to get some freebies here with those hits, but not quite the case yet. Now, in case you haven't seen a whole lot of Terran versus Terran as of late, this is a matchup that may require a little bit of explanation. These units, for example, rarely used in Terran versus Zerg. Every once in a while used in Terran versus Protoss, usually against things like, for example, Colossi, but honestly, these days it's very, very rare. But Ravens are absolutely pivotal in Terran versus Terran, and there's a couple of reasons as to why. The main thing that they're really, really good for is not just the auto turret that you saw earlier, but it's the interference matrix. So that is this upgrade over here that's been researched already inside of the tech lab on a starport. The interference matrix effectively allows you to disable units from the opponent temporarily. And the main unit you want to be disabling, that's these bad boys. Siege tanks create a little bit of a stalemate sometimes, where if you can picture like two lines of siege tanks, one of them blue, one of them red, like how do you engage? What do you do? Well, that's where the Ravens swing in. When the Ravens, disable some of the opponent's siege tanks, you might be able to stim your Marines and get on in there and try to overwhelm it. Now, you can also use Ravens to disable your opponent's Ravens. Something that, is very critical. Likewise, Vikings here are obviously there for a couple different reasons. Vikings, you build them not just to counter the opponent's Ravens, but also to provide vision. Since siege tanks can shoot away further than they can see, you can obviously continuously scan to actually provide vision, but you're always fighting on the edge here in TVT, and having the air superiority is absolutely massive. So far, both players are indeed on just a single starport, but it's not uncommon for players to make many of them and just basically focus on like pure Sky Terran with a bunch of siege tanks in the back just to try and have that air superiority. So there's already enough troops available to begin one-shotting units, and even though Björn's army may not have been up to par previously, because he's got this defensive position now, he's going to be able to keep these units in red at bay. Second factory coming up right now here for Maru. We've got ourselves extra command centers added into the mix as well, and while we have seen Maru trying to see if he can maybe end this game early, this is not looking like a game where that will be the case. He's got another nice little position, though. Behind this mineral line, those siege tanks really want to get some juicy shots in on those units in blue. That right over there is an interference matrix, and Björn is going to be able to shut most of these units down. But man, is it a very complex matchup to play, and that I feel like is always the case in every mirror matchup especially. But Terran versus Terran is just on another level. There are so many moving parts, so many potential build orders. It is an extremely difficult balancing act. Like, I feel like in the other matchups, right? Like, say you're a Zerg versus Zerg player or Protoss versus Protoss player, you can kind of attack move and get away with it some of the time, right? Like, it's rarely optimal to just send in the units and hit the attack move button and just go. But if you do that in Terran versus Terran and you accidentally end up running your army into your opponent's siege tank line, it will just disappear. This is kind of like getting lurkers out at minute 3, right? And the lurkers are fully upgraded right from the start. It just creates a very complex matchup. Obviously, doom drops are still a thing as well, where you can send in medevacs full of units. This really is kind of like real-time chess. And it's hard, man. TVT is always one of those matchups that I love watching. I really enjoy casting it, but I kind of hate playing it. It's never been a matchup that clicked for me personally. Right now, both players are focusing on marine-based armies with siege tanks and Vikings and Ravens for support, but it's possible as well to go full Terran mech. It is possible even to transition to full Terran mech. Once your economy is big enough, you can plant down additional factories and, yeah, make that swap. Just getting engagements down, though, just all on its own is extremely tough. So we've already gotten, indeed, up to that triple starport production here for Maru. And in the meantime, on the other side of the map, well, we don't have that just yet. There's only a single starport available right now for Björn, which gives him a lot more wiggle room with the Marines. Since both players are now approaching a maxed out state, he's got a lot more Marines, but how are you going to use them, right? Like, what are you going to do with them? He's going to end up with like 60 of those bad boys. But what do you do with 60 versus like 40, plus a whole lot of, well, flying units here that Maru has in addition to his to all of these ground troops that he's already got? It's tough. Obviously, the more tanks you have, the more bases you have, the more thinly you generally have to like spread your defensive units as well. So Maru now taking this base, it means that he has to cover a lot more space. And that is sometimes when those marine-based armies can really shine, because this is just a lot more mobile. Right now, it's really only a planetary and 2 tanks over here, for example, on the left for Maru. So if Björn can sniff that out and get into the right spot, he could just overwhelm this. Likewise, in TVT late game, it gets pretty silly sometimes too, where both players get so many command centers going, and we're kind of headed in that direction already now. This is a big macro game to start off the team league. You can effectively disable the Fog of War. And that kind of nullifies the advantage that those Vikings have to provide that, well, vision that the siege tanks want, right? That's one of the reasons you get the Vikings initially, is because the siege tanks can shoot away further than they can see. But then in the late game, orbital commands can somewhat take over that same role. Is your mind starting to get confused yet? Are there too many moving parts? Well, that's TVT right there, in a nutshell. Extremely difficult matchup. And it's one of the reasons why we see a lot of Terran players on the ladder cheese this matchup every single time. Just because it is so friggin' hard to play well. Alright, let's see. Maru once more looking for an opportunity. He now knows where those units are. Okay, disables the blue siege tanks. Gets the 4th one there too, and that now enables him to move through. Man, he's actually got so many disables available. They will soon wake up again. A lot of the units also do get hit right here by the anti-armor missile. Another reason why those Ravens are good. Bjondo decides to just take the fight in stride, and I don't think that was all too bad for him, despite the fact that all of those tanks here weren't firing for a while. It looks a little dicey. But what are you gonna do? Unsiege and leave with the units that you can control? Not really an option. When you do have that air superiority, with the triple, now even 5, we have our up to the quintuple starport production. When you go up to this level of production here, you can start mixing in Liberators too. And Liberators, obviously, well, you can use them to disable the opponent's tanks. If you get 2 of them sieged up just like that, it is basically impossible for those units to escape. Björn doesn't even bother. He knows that it's never going to be able to get out. Okay, and so far, I gotta say, Maru, he is playing like an absolute god. Björn is looking for opportunities. And Björn is defending really nicely, but despite the fact that the armies are like 98% identical, other than all of the flying units, yeah, Maru just seems to be way more confident. And look at the mini-map right now, too. He's starting to gobble up the entire upper right-hand corner of this map. He'll probably go, yep, for this mineral line over here in the far upper right, too. Maru doing Maru things. This is, by the way, a matchup as well that makes many Terran players betray Terran. Wait, this was actually Björn taking the base. That's so funny. This is also a matchup, though, that makes many Terran players betray Terran. In the sense that this is such a tough one to play that they actually choose to just go with Protoss or Zerg instead. I know. Weakness. It will not be tolerated by the Terran Dominion. Maru looking for openings, right? Like he's trying to see if he can get his units into the right place at the right time. So far, though, not really getting a whole lot done in that regard, as Björn's defensive skills have just been a little bit too good. Now Björn decides to go after one of those newly built command centers, and he's going to force the cancel on it. There's an SCV right now in red trying to start up another command center as well in the far upper right. Not going to happen. Maru restarts the base over here, shoves those units in blue away. Missile turret is actually kind of sweet. Yeah, we already have a whole ring of them set up in the middle of the map right here for Maru. I'm starting to get nerd chills already. Like, nothing really much has happened yet, but this is very clearly leading to an absolute clash in the later stages of this game. Like, these guys are trying their absolute best to figure out what the opponent is doing. Now, this command center was just like, I don't know, just the scaffolding has to be removed, I suppose. Well, no council, though. That's a little bit unfortunate there for Björn. Takes a lot of losses. Building armor finishing up for the both of them. And despite the fact that this is not a matchup that technically can really turn into a stalemate anymore, like, this is a very active stalemate, which maybe counters the word stalemate, but both players really are trying their best to eke out a lead. Maru, again, trying to get a squeeze on this base, trying to choke the opponent out. Not quite getting the opportunity, and now Björn's Ravens sneak around the side. He disables all of the tanks in the red, and anti-armor missile or not, Björn decides to stim in and snipe whatever he can get. Is he going to continue going forward? I think he will. These tanks are indeed also going to fall, and some of that static defense line will be broken now. Tanks on the high ground, though, right here, together with some auto turrets. Man, it's an absolute disaster if you were one of those Marines. A bloodbath at the bottom of the ramp. But you know what? That opens up new supply for more flying units. That opens up more resources as well to keep adding on more command centers. We've already seen some of those liberators up in the air. Maru now decides to go for a fusion core. Technically, in like the ultimate late game of TVT, you could go into Battlecruiser production as well. It's been a little bit since I've seen BC versus BC, but you know what? I'm here for it. I don't think we're gonna get it though. Because it takes too long. It's too expensive. Ravens are just so freaking good. Because they can disable the opponent's Battlecruisers too, right? It's just a very powerful spell. Like, sometimes I see people suggesting that they should buff Ravens because they're so underutilized. The thing is that it's already... it's a unit that is borderline broken in Terran versus Terran. And obviously for a mirror matchup, yeah, maybe balance is not that important. But, I mean... Terran is going to win, and lose 100% of the time in TVT anyways. So the numbers don't really move that much, but yeah, if you make the Raven any stronger. Already, it is like the only... Oh, we're getting it! Yo! He's actually getting weapon refit. He's getting weapon refit. That's the Yamato cannon research before Liberator ranged. Woo! Okay. He's got... Well, Björn actually caught up right now with the Battlecruiser or with the starport situation. He's got 7 starports available at this point in time. Big anti-armor missiles yet again, though. Extra factories coming up as well for Maru, who probably does want to make the switch to large mech. Yet again, a bloodbath. Yet again, a wash between the armies. But now that those Marines have disappeared, Maru fires up 4 Battlecruisers at once. Okay. So... we have a whole lot of command centers now being taken too. We are arriving at effectively a split map scenario. Both players have taken exactly their half of the map. Okay. Now, are Battlecruisers actually the right call to make? Because this game has been going well for Maru. Isn't he just... well, leaving so many resources out in the open by going into a mass Battlecruiser transition? Doesn't Björn just snipe them with Vikings and Ravens alone? Like, he could disable them with the Ravens interference matrix and then just snipe them all with a bunch of Vikings up in the air. Like, isn't it just like a gigantic waste of resources? Well, I guess we'll find out together. The fleet is here. Who called it? Nobody knows. I guess it's Maru, actually. The world's tiniest general, but very vicious. This tank has been a thorn in Maru, or in Björn's side rather, for a while, who, by the way, doesn't know about the BCs until right here. He sees them now for the very first time. How is he going to respond? Well, the problem is he's maxed. So maybe he would like to add on more Vikings. Maybe he would like to actually make a proper counter. But at this point, he doesn't really have the option. Now, what Battlecruisers are really good for is harassing, right? Like, you can always tactically jump them into the fight. So they have a cooldown. Basically, on a 1-minute cooldown, they can jump anywhere on the map that you have vision. So you can send them over here, do a little bit of harassment. They don't really care much about missile turrets and all the rest of the anti-air. And then if Björn decides to commit to a fight, you can just jump them back into the engagement pretty much, well, immediately. And this is where they are really powerful. There we go. Oh, careful. Oh, okay. That is a very, very close call there for Björn. If the Battlecruisers get interference matrixed, they are also unable to use any of their abilities. So in this case, the anti-armor missile was already, or sorry, the interference matrix rather was already flying in midair, but Maru already had triggered the recall, which means that they recall first and then they get interferenced, which obviously is not a big deal. But that was almost 1,600 minerals down the drain there for the Terran player in red. Björn trying to see if he can still hold his own over here. The Battlecruisers will be joining in with the main army again, I'm sure, in a moment when they have their abilities yet again available. Command Center, by the way, in the far bottom left, did survive this entire ordeal. And Björn decided to now just add on a ton of missile turrets to save that expansion for a little while longer. Maybe prevent it from dying yet again down the line. Man, so many units are dying. Much better fight here across the board for Maru. But he needs to be careful. Likewise, Björn needs to be careful, though, because even though he did just end up, getting pushed back here, he hasn't really lost a lot of economy yet. Maru just trying to snipe whatever he can. Lots of auto turrets are planted down as well. We have another anti-armor missile being thrown. We have Björn coming in from multiple sides here, just trying to snipe whatever he can. The Battlecruisers will be able to jump away again, but he's just using them for damage output instead. Marines are popping out of those Rexes as well. Nice individual Yamatos there onto every single one of the Vikings. I think Maru is going to jump these guys away when he feels like he no longer has a chance to save them. Oh man, he's just going deep. He's trying to save them. Oh, he does save one of them. Man, he's actually getting so much value on his way out with the BCs. He fires up 4 new ones, too. Hold up right now. That was way better than I thought it was going to be for the Battlecruisers. Yep. He's got 7 health, but that's all he needs. There come the SCVs to try and repair him back up to full. Maru, by the way, did go all the way up to 8 starports here. 8! When's the last time you've seen a Terran with 8 starports? Very uncommon. 8 barracks, every game. 8 factories? Every once in a while in a Terran mech match. 8 starports, though, is a little bit odd. And Björn is here struggling, trying to just stay with it. He is going in for a counterattack. Obviously, with a marine-based army, you do rebuild way quicker. But the Battlecruisers, despite taking a long time, they are indeed already coming out. Yeah, and even though they're powerful already, they're not even fully upgraded yet. That's kind of the crazy thing. There's still 1 additional attack upgrade that those BCs are going to get in about a minute from now. They also can still, just get more and more value here. Ooh, out of the Terran player microing it. Gotta be so careful, though. They're so slow and sluggish. All right. Anti-armor missile and siege tanks are gonna force Björn to reconsider that particular fight. Björn, though, no longer really in a situation where he can answer the mass starport army here of Maru. Like, Maru is kind of ending up with a unit composition that is just... Yeah, what I was trying to say, look at how short the unit stab is for both players. For Maru, it's basically just siege tanks and flying units. And then likewise here for Björn, we have some siege tanks, but he is stuck on Marines. And Marines are just not really a unit you want to have in this kind of situation. Like, in a straight-up fight, the Marines are going to be fine, but the Battlecruisers, over a little crevice like this, are just getting so much value. Maru is tearing his opponent apart with mass Battlecruiser. What a fantastic opening match to the Team League today. Huh. This is a best of 7, by the way. Hope you got yourself a drink. I have myself a lot of coffee and like 2 liters of water, so I think I'm good. But I may have accidentally signed up for a... Man, we had 7 Battlecruisers here on the production tab at once. That's crazy. I think I may have accidentally signed up for a very long series of StarCraft. At least if these two have any say in the matter. Man, it's so nice to see Battlecruisers winning games. Like, sorry, I don't think this is a spoiler right now, because Bjorn really does look like he's in a world of trouble. But rarely do we see Battlecruisers actually be a useful unit. And I say this as a science fiction nerd. I freaking love Battlecruisers. They're like my favorite unit in the entire game. And yet they're also kind of useless most of the time. It's really sweet to actually see them be a critical component here for Maru. And not just used as a meme. Like, that's how they're mostly used over the last few years. Look at these tanks over here, by the way. The only real threat to them is apparently a bunch of SCVs now. Okay, the tanks are gonna tear themselves apart. Landed Vikings are going to be handy too. But that is a whole lot of units that will go down. And you know what? The lost supply? He's replacing it with more Battlecruisers. So where do we end up? We end up with 13 Battlecruisers. Actually, he's got enough supply for one more. No, never mind. He starts up two additional tanks. Okay, fair enough. But 13 Battlecruisers. That is apparently the army that Maru wants to win the game with. Now, Bjorn still has a ridiculous economy. He's got 13 orbital commands. And he has a lot of resources still coming in. Man, that's like half of the Viking squad gone. Just like that. I don't think this is a great fight, though, for Maru over here. Maru doesn't care. Maru's going full bulldozer. Anti-armor missile? Yeah, don't care. I think he's kind of, yeah, he's kind of overextending, though. That was not necessary at all. I think that's about the best case engagement there for Bjorn, who's now going to try and strike while the iron is hot. He knows that those units are going to need a moment to be repaired back up, and he has a very large amount of Marines. 50 Marines, man. In a straight-up fight, they will win against the Battlecruisers. I say that. Now we're up to so many BCs that it's probably a tough call, but as far as resource efficiency goes, the Marines are hard to beat. Maru actually feeling the heat. Now goes back to his own Marine production yet again. Yeah, I can't really blame him. The amount of Vespene on his side of the map is running low. And while Bjorn has been struggling for a while, he hasn't really given up position very much. One really big oversight though here for the Terran in blue are his upgrades. Maru fully maxed in every way imaginable. Bjorn on +1 air and +2 armor for his mechanical units. Here's the anti-armor missiles once more being used though. Yeah, we have the interference matrix is also going down. The Battlecruisers are clumping together, and it's hard to say really who ends up winning a fight like this, but I think the BCs are indeed reigning supreme. There were so many clumped up Vikings there in the mix too. And that right there, I think, sealed the deal. Maru still has resources to go and max out. The cost efficiency of our Red Terran player has just been ridiculous. And that indeed means that ONSYDE gets the 1-0 lead in the team league. Okay, so we just had a phenomenal game of Terran versus Terran. What about Protoss versus Protoss? Spotting right here in the upper left, playing in green. Representing the Rebellion, we have Harstem. His opponent, down in bottom right, playing in blue, we have none other than Christianer, who of course is part of ONSYDE. Now I've got a feeling that it's gonna be hard to live up to that Terran versus Terran we just had. I feel like even at its like most epicest, is that a word? I think it should be. Anyways, even at its most epic, I don't think PvP can be quite as cool as Battlecruisers raiding the skies. But you know what? Maybe these two can change my mind. PvP, of course, a very different matchup. One of the very difficult parts about PvP is that you have like 6 units available by like minute 7. Okay, maybe a slight exaggeration, but it always feels to me like if you lose literally any unit in Protoss versus Protoss early on by accident, it's game over. I mean, that's, again, a little extreme, but PvP is extremely tough. I mean, I guess, look, StarCraft 2 is always a difficult game, right? But the mirror matchups, so Terran versus Terran, Protoss versus Protoss, Zerg versus Zerg, especially so. Because obviously, the units are mostly designed to be really strong against, like, say, for example, the opponent's races, like different races. And, yeah, when you're both making the same army, the guy with the bigger army is pretty much always going to come out ahead. Now, you could always, if you really hate Protoss versus Protoss, you could just decide to cannon rush. A very popular answer on the ladder. It's something many players do. It's a little awkward when you have two players cannon rushing one another. As you may have seen in many of the viewer games that I've casted over the years. When both players cannon rush one another, the games do become very vague. Now look at this. It's like two dogs in the dog park. I'm not saying that Harstem... Anyways. He just wanted to sniff that probe. That's okay. Nothing to be ashamed of. Alright, Stargate coming up right here for Christianer, whereas we have a sentry right over here for Harstem. I'm assuming we're going to be going into a good old Twilight Council in a moment here for the player in green. Love to see a little bit of color variety, by the way. PvP yet again, by the way, an excellent matchup. It is really fun. It's just so... it's just difficult. Like, all the mirror matchups are hard. But PvP is another one that just is so freaking tough. Now, we do see quite a bit of build order variety these days in PvP. Both players here opting to go for the double gateway start. Or, sorry. Actually, no. Oh my god, I only just now picked up on that. I was yapping so hard that I missed the fact that Harstem here actually decided to go for just a single gate. He's gonna have to make sure that these adepts do not sneak into the main base. Okay, good force field over here as well. For the Dutchman. And look at the sentries going to town. Sentry's actually a scary unit in PvP. Oracle will be available momentarily. Yeah. And that's going to be sweet to send into the mineral line. So again, sentries, they deal bonus damage to units that have shields. AKA only relevant in PvP. But they're actually kind of lethal. You got to be careful with them. Look how much damage they're dealing. Christian are trying to get some real value in. There's not yet a photon or a shield battery available in the main base's mineral line. A couple of stalkers do get warped in. He decides to YOLO it in just to try and max the damage. Don't know if I love that. I guess the odds of it getting value after the shield batteries are built, it's, yeah, very, very low. The problem here for Christianer is that he does not have an expansion done yet, right? Like, it's only here finishing. And Harstem is already pumping out those probes 2 at a time. He needs to equalize the worker count. Problem is, if you do it by throwing away your units, then it's going to be really scary when Harstem does eventually get across the map. That's exactly what he's doing right here. Probe is also following this. We have 3 stalkers, 3 sentries, and then a single probe ready to move out. Christianer has already built up some shield batteries of his own, though. He's now going into a quick immortal follow-up. Hallucinated Phoenix is going to scout out where that Oracle is trying to attack from, so if we need any sort of defense, it can indeed be warped in. No shield battery in the natural, though. Yeah, he's just committing. Oh, we have some fake stalkers, some hallucinated stalkers going in. He doesn't really want to show Christianer exactly what's going on yet. I kind of love it. Man, hallucinations are so freaking cool. I think by now Christianer realizes that the 2 units he's been hitting the most are actually fake. Immortal is available now, but the shield battery is already running low. Proxy pylon available right now for the Dutchman. Second Immortal does fire up, though. Christianer may very well add in a Prism as well momentarily. 2 Immortals and a Prism. I mean, with good micro, kind of always feels like you can shut down half of the opponent's armies. Only just now, though, do we actually see some proper tech here for Harstem. So he's been very focused on just getting gateway units so far, and it's been working out reasonably well, but it's not enough to really go and win the game. He needs some sort of tech. Twilight Council, not uncommon to get it real early for the Blink research. In this particular instance, he decided to focus on more unit production instead. There indeed is the Warp Prism on the back of this. Shield battery forged together with a Twilight Council here for Christianer, who will be following this up with a more standard mid-game army too. But he now sees that, crap, the opponent already has a 3rd base. Is this a situation where Christianer can really go and move out and get a 3rd base of his own? He could decide to go for a big attack instead. Looks like the Oracle actually swooped back in. Still no shield battery in the net, so yeah, it's now got 4 confirmed kills. Not too shabby. Should be okay as well. Getting rid of these 2 adepts. Yep. No more free scouting. Third Nexus here starts up now 2 for Christianer, but no shield batteries obviously located near this base just yet. And that may be exactly what Harstem is looking for. He's gonna see right now that indeed this is what's going on. Proxy pylon, by the way, not taken care of for some reason. Oh my god, Cristiano doesn't see it? I was wondering why that pylon here for Hearthstone was still up. For some reason, man, he was idling right next to where his opponent was warping in reinforcements from, and now has to give up on this location because of it. I mean, also due to the fact that his opponent's got a huge army, but still. Oracle swoops in now, tries to go for the stasis board. Very risky, but Hearthstone does end up sniping it, almost body blocking himself with that very slow Stalker warp in. Yeah, and now it feels for Hearthstone like this game is on rails. Right, he knows that he's got a better economy by a slight margin. And he knows that he's got a third Nexus up, so his eco is only going to get better. Cristiano has two options. Either he builds eco from behind, or he goes for a push. But this can be scouted out very easily. Now, this Oracle here has been really quite annoying. I'm surprised to still see it get 7 kills after it got perfectly denied the first time around. It's a little bit more damage than you really want. Glaive to Depths here coming up as well for Hearthstone. Not just used as a cheese in this particular matchup. Very useful as well against straight-up armies. When you suspect your opponent may just be going very zealot heavy, having extra attack speed on Adepts, and using Adepts as a core unit. Not a bad call at all. Okay. Yeah, so this is where income is just going to be so pivotal. Hearthstone is going to be significantly ahead in that regard. And Cristiano is just sort of eating the disadvantage so far. Like, he wants to move in. He's trying to get some harassment damage done, and I guess the Oracle has been very effective. The Adept flybys here, not so much. They're just gonna get sniped. Okay. A few different choices here for Hearthstone. Either he can sit here and try to expand behind it. He can try to tech up if he really wants to, or he can try and push the issue. Because he knows he's been mining a little bit more here for a while already. Can you really try and commit? Do you try to go for a big push here? He's got himself the Robo facility done right now. Warp Prism can be built at this point. Yep, there we go. And even though the Proxy Pylon may have been killed, now there is a secondary option. He's already got a probe patrolling the 4th Nexus, and he will begin one. Okay. Fake move out here through the middle of the map yet again. Cristiano trying to see what's going on. He does not quite see the timing there of the opponent's 4th Nexus. Robo Bay on the back of this as well here for Hearthstone. Okay. Yeah, we're having ourselves some nice macro games so far in this best of 7. Like, this is one of those games that can be over very quickly. But it's also one of those games that can just go on for a very long time. Because attacking at this point is just so sketchy. You're pushing up a ramp. Now, we've all seen Star Wars. Not a good idea in general. At least I'm assuming you have. And obviously, you're pushing into, like, an opponent that's already set up with some sentries. You're pushing into shield batteries and all the rest of it. It is not a very, easy call to make. So, oftentimes, it can be tempting to just try to get more ahead. And then when you realize your opponent is expanding, you try to push ahead from that point too. And then ultimately you end up in a situation, and we're kind of headed in that direction right now, where I feel like Hearthstone has been a few percentage points ahead for the majority of this game. But it's not really to a point where he can just go and win, right? As long as he doesn't really push the issue, this can get to a point where Cristiano maxes out. Cristiano can get like a scary late game army too, and when disruptors come out in big numbers, the entire match can be flipped upside down very quickly, and that small advantage can just diminish. Wait a second though. Cristiano's going in for a counterattack, and somehow, some way, these two players, despite the fact that hallucinated phoenixes have been flying around the map, they have bypassed each other. How in the world did we arrive here? Okay, we're apparently going to commit to a full-on base race? There's already units inside of the main base. Cristiano really should try and see if he can get rid of that Warp Prism. Likewise, though, okay, are we going to recall? No, he decided to recall to the 3rd base. I thought he was going to recall to the natural. Is Hearthstone going to get stuck in the opponent's natural expansion? This has just become very, very strange. He could try to recall back to safety, but it won't really fit in the circle. That means a whole lot of troops will get sacrificed. The Shaded Adepts, though, have made their way on over towards the 3rd base. Okay, and they will be slipping out the back door. A big crisis here for both players, but Hearthstone navigating it better in the end. Yeah. Yeah. So now we end up with a situation where Hearthstone is twice the economy of Christianer. Honestly, a really well-played game right here by the player in green. Still, though, this army here of Christianer is to be respected. It's Archon Immortal based, which is way stronger than this Adept Stalker base. Purification Novas, okay. They have a lot of potential. They also have the potential to blow up your own units. This is still a very throwable game right here for Hearthstone. This army is scary, though. It's just not very microable. Yeah, all of these troops are slow. So when the balls start rolling, you end up just, microing against it individually. Another nice hit right there onto the Immortals. Hearthstone trying to see if he can soften up this army, and now he's pushed up towards the high ground here. Christianer, that is, and I don't think he's got the numbers anymore. Nope, the Novas have been nice. Calm and collected. It's very tempting to just throw them all out at the same time. But it's the Dutchman who gets a point on the board for the Shopify Rebellion. Okay, and that means it's time for our 2 versus 2. We're on a map called Undercurrent, where we have, I guess, Team Red. It's ONSYDE. First off, we're looking at none other than Christianer's main Nexus, and then right next to him, a new player on the block for today. We have none other than Ryung. And then all the way in the opposite corner, playing right here with the blue Zerg pieces, we have a Lambo, our first Zerg, and then none other than Björn as his ally. Okay, so it's the first time we'll see Ryung and Lambo play for today. Looks like Lambo is going to be able to get the back expansion. Yeah. Usually this is like a first come, first serve type of thing. I've noticed in my own games of 2v2. Whoever just wants to expand first usually gets the free base. Now, technically, I think Lambo could have taken the forward one. Maybe used a little bit of the creep as well to defend this area, but no. That'll be a problem that Björn maybe has to solve. 2v2, though, is so much fun, man. I've been really loving the 2v2 games. It's actually a pretty tough map as well to scout on, right? Because you could just put all of your eggs in one basket and both go for like a one base all-in, and it does hit very hard. Problem right here for Team Blue, for example, is that they can't really scout whether or not that's the case. Like this base, all the way in the upper right, it feels impossible. Like it's not, like an Overlord can't really make it. You're not gonna throw down a scan there as a Terran player. I don't think a Reaper Scout can very easily access to that part of the map. So they may just be in the dark as far as that goes, and never an easy call to make. Likewise though, oh, we're crossing bases again. All right. Likewise though, I think it'll be tough for the players in the upper right to see whether or not the opponent expanded there in the far bottom left, but it's a relatively safe assumption to make, especially when you go up against the Zerg, because they can just take that base much, much easier and much earlier on in the game. Anyhow, Factory should be coming up here momentarily for Ryung. Or should I say, ONSYDE Young. This is what happens when you don't have any separating bit between like the clan tag and it's all uppercase, and then upper or ONSYDE Young. It's a beautiful name. I kind of like it. Not everybody, by the way, opting to play with a little decal on their base. Yeah, it's because apparently Ryung is not actually part of the clan ONSYDE on the StarCraft 2 server. He's just added it in front of his name. All right. Lair coming up right now for Lambo. I do actually like orange. Orange looks cool. I really did like as well the green Protoss of Hearthstone we just now saw. It does look really pretty. All right. Double Stargate here for Christianer. We've already noticed in the past, and again, 2v2 is still reasonably unexplored, at least compared to 1v1. But I think one thing can certainly be said, and that is that Phoenixes are just incredible in 2v2. They're kind of a shaky unit in 1v1, but in 2v2, they really, really shine. And I'm assuming, yep, we are going to be seeing those pumped out 2 at a time. Now against Zerg, it may be a little bit finicky. Something like Hydra, for example, is actually not a bad choice here for Lambo. Curious to see where they're going to be taking this game. Ooh, he goes straight Spire. Interesting. So this is 2-base Spire here for Lambo. Now, there is no way he can really play Mutas against Phoenixes, though. That's the problem. Like, if they accidentally sail... Like, he's already seen it. If they sail a bunch of Mutas into a Phoenix army, you just die. You just lose. Like, you're just throwing the game at that point. So, is this a quick Spire just to go straight into Corruptor? Like, are we going to be playing Corruptor Ling? That's a weird unit comp. Either way, Young and Cristiano are going to test the waters here a little bit. They do not know about the Spire that is currently building inside of the main base. Nice little shots right over here, though. Just no units available right now for the Zerg player yet. Yeah, this is now effectively a 2v1, which is not a situation you really want to be in. Oh, and no, SCV's in a world of trouble. Brenda wants to join in the fight, but I've got a feeling she's just going to die. Well, at least she's going to try and dive for the swarm. Oh, she can fly. That's beautiful. It's just like Brood War now. Back before the Brood War, she could fly. Yeah, now we're going into a bunch of Corruptors, but 4 Corruptors is effectively Lambo's entire addition to this situation. I guess he's getting the links wrapped around those Hellions, too. A little bit sloppy, if I can be, so brutally honest here. From Ryung, he should not be losing those units to those Lings. But this feels very shaky. Bjorn has now been reduced to just a very small amount of units. He's got a cloaked Banshee now working away at whatever it can hit. Now Ryung again, not really controlling his unit very well there because he was shooting away at that refinery for a while. Yeah, and Lambo is gonna hold on. Like, Lambo is gonna make both of these players hold on against the current armies. But this is an absolute disaster here for Team Blue. The Rebellion not really getting the value they're hoping for. Okay. Cristiano is going to add on 6 additional gateways. Likewise here for Ryung, he is just going to add on more production. Now, it's a little bit funky to see him indeed go into Terran Mech from here, but as long as they can push the issue, it'll be fine. My main concern with switching to Terran Mech is that it's just so freaking slow to get going. I feel like you gotta strike while the iron is hot. At least it, certainly looks like Cristiano has units ready to go. He's gonna get Blink Stalkers out in about a minute. The Corruptor count, though, big enough now to dominate the skies. And I guess once you dominate the skies, yeah, you could have Bjorn feeding Lambo Vespian gas. And then if Lambo if he builds Mass Muta, I mean, you can't share resources. Could also use the caustic spray ability, I suppose. Considering we don't have a marine-based army, it's not such a bad idea. Oh. Man, Ryung seems really slow today. Am I crazy? For some reason, the reactions just don't seem to be nearly as crisp as they need to be at the pro level. Kind of messy. Lucky for him, he's playing a unit composition that requires very little micro. Unlike the Terran versus Terran we saw earlier. This is, A-moving is like 90% of the work. That helps, makes it a bit easier. None of those pesky Marines that need to be controlled against Banelings at the very least. All right, Cristiano also slowing it down a little bit here by going into the Templar Archive, although he could use this just... No, he goes for Storm right now, but he could use it just for Archon production. Siege tanks in blue now available. Man, these Corruptors are kind of taking the role of the Vikings that we saw in the Terran versus Terran earlier. Yeah, and now that they have the air superiority, that's when Lambo switches to Mass Muta production. Is it good enough, though? The Stalkers are already blinking forward. Yeah, and the rest of that mech army also is indeed present. And with the siege tanks gone, I mean, that was effectively 2 tanks against everything. With the siege tanks gone, the Corruptors can't really help out, and GG gets cold. It's time for a Protoss versus Zerg. We find ourselves on the map Mothership. Spawning right here on the right, we have the man who tried desperately to stay afloat in the previous game. We have none other than Lambo, awkwardly ending up with a Corruptor army. And then more Corruptors. And then he added on more Corruptors. Did not really go his way. Spawning right over here, though, on the left, playing in red, we have Zaun. Yet to make an appearance for today. Nice to have Zaun yet again in this particular series. I haven't actually had a look at Zaun games in a little bit, but I did see some tournament results. And I guess small spoiler alert, but let's just say that Zaun has been performing very nicely. I'm excited to have a look at some more of his replays over the next couple of weeks. If you're interested as well, make sure you're subscribed so you get notified as soon as those videos go live. Because Zaun seems to be on a bit of a tear lately. Lambo's Protoss versus Zerg though, or I guess from his perspective, his Zerg versus Protoss has always looked very solid to me. Not entirely sure if he would agree with me. I feel like most Zerg players that I talk to kind of hate playing against Protoss right now. That was actually a very funny clip of Elazer on the StarCraft 2 Reddit the other day, where Elazer was going on a bit of a rant on stream. Dude, the funniest thing about that rant, I checked out the stream VOD. So basically he was talking about how Protoss versus Zerg is unfair for the Zerg player and that it's unwinnable and yada yada yada. We've heard it many times before. But then right after that he hits the Q button, right? So he's like, he's just done ranting and he's in the queue to find another ladder game, and he queues into Christianer and he plays this 30-minute slugfest against Skytos, which basically was exactly what his rant was all about. God, I hate that so much as a player, but it's so entertaining to watch. Because you know they're molding. Yeah. Yeah, you know the players are molding while they're playing the game. Oh, anyways. I don't know how Lambo feels about Zerg versus Protoss at the moment. But at least it seems that not every European Zerg is very positive about the situation right now. Okay, well. Lambo, of course, known as the Professor. A lot of the builds that he comes up with do become the standard. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if like 80% of the builds, genuinely, like from Zerg in 2026, are all invented by the Professor. The easiest thing, I guess, to point out is how he revolutionized the early game for Zerg again. With the 15 extractor trick pool that is now the standard that Lambo realized was actually the best thing to do. Because he decides to run the numbers. Yep, and then guys like Cyril take the builds. They take the advice. Guys like Raynor take the builds. They take the advice. And then they win. Lambo, always really strong. But never quite at that level of, say, for example, a Cyril or a Raynor. Which really is a shame, because this man has been on the absolute top of the European ladder for many, many years. But that final tiny little step seems to be a tough one to make. Okay. The Adepts here are shading around, trying their absolute best. Oracle number 1 is already out. Second Oracle coming up. Third Nexus not yet started. I'm assuming, though, we're going to see it right about right now. Right now. All right, good. Sharp early game here for Zaun, though. 345 on that Nexus, like 344 is good. This Adept sadly shades into the Queen. Now that means that it's going to go down without really getting a whole lot of value. No Spore available yet, though, inside of the main base, and we do have a couple of softened up workers. Oh, no, we're overfiring. Ugh, ugly. Okay. Likewise, by the way, on the other team, on ONSYDE, maybe Lambo has been inventing a lot of the Zerg strategies. Likewise, on the other team, Ryung has usually been the one that invents a lot of the Terran builds, and then Maru takes them and wins tournaments with them. It's a little sad, but it's a pretty similar story. We have strategists in StarCraft 2, and then we have, guys that take those strategies, say thank you very much, and then win $1 million with it. Yeah, unlucky. Anyhow, Evo Chamber coming up. A lair building here for Lambo. He doesn't own a Lambo, by the way. A little bit unlucky. I feel like owning a Lambo has got to be a very bad life decision anyways. Like, how much money do you need to own reliably, right? Like, realistically, if you want to buy a Lambo, like, how much does a Lambo cost? I don't even know. Anyways, we have a bunch of adepts showing up. I feel like it's a bad financial decision is what I'm saying. Adept here is going to get sniped yet again. More adepts are dying over at the third base too, and Lambo so far has basically got a gigantic stop sign in his base. Zaun just not really achieving that much with those early game units. 5 adepts dying doesn't really sound that significant, but now Lambo holds down the drone button, and he's going to skyrocket ahead, and there's very, very little that Zaun can do about it. Like, 5 adepts doesn't seem like that big of a deal, and if you look at the resources lost on the side of the Zerg, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal either. But this can very quickly slip out of your fingers as a Protoss. Because now Lambo has a free reign straight to the mid game. He's going to just build up whatever he likes. And while we still have a little bit of harassment in the form of some of these oracles, until the Stalkers are out on the battlefield, there's not much Zaun can really do. And considering the adepts have died, he doesn't really know exactly what he's playing against anymore. He's in the dark. Loses one of the oracles too. I don't know. Hydra transition here, by the way, immediately for a Lambo. So Lambo did make a Roach Warren, but he never upgraded it. This was just in case of like an Adept all-in, I suppose, or like a Zealot push, something along those lines. Really just using the potential for Roaches as a stepping stone right now to go into Hydra Ling. No Baneling Nest, so this is pure Hydra Ling. Just like it's 1998. Storm coming up for Zaun, together with the Charge Research. But effectively what he's saying here is like, okay, look, the Adepts didn't do that much. They died, and then the Stalkers are too slow to really get anything done with, and that means I now have to like slowly tech up towards the Sky Tossy type of army eventually. Alright, get the High Templar going, and then probably transition to Sky Toss in a late game. But you do give Zerg so much freedom right now, and Lambo loves freedom. He's getting a lair into a hive. He's got a Lurker Den building. He's spreading a lot of creep around. And now that he's got 8 gases, Lurkers really become a viable option. Alternatively, by the way, Zaun could just go for a full ground army. But the reason we see Protoss transitioning towards Skytoss very frequently from here is precisely because of that Lurker Den. If the hive is done and the Lurkers get upgraded, good luck. Try to kill it with a ground toss army. It's doable, but very tough. Oh, we're gonna go for a proxy pylon? He wants to go for an all-out assault here. Interesting. Zaun is ready to effectively put it all on the line with 69 probes. I mean, that's pretty nice, but he's gonna fight on creep. And it's just Hydra Ling for now, and he's struggling against that. Think about a bunch of Lurkers available, too. It's just not gonna work, man. Nah, really, Zaun? We're gonna just run our units to their deaths over here? He is building a 4th Nexus, too. Wow. Proxy Nexus? Are you kidding me, Zaun? He's building a Nexus in the middle. Is that a misclick? Was that supposed to be a gate? Or is he really feeling like the fight is gonna go on here for such a long time that he needs shield batteries recharged or something? I don't know. I mean, it's another way to quickly warp in units, but a gigantic waste of money. Lurkers are gonna slow push this like crazy, though. We have a bunch of Lurkers available already, and they're gonna get their ranged upgrade. That has to be a mistake. I don't think Zaun is looking at it anymore. He goes Fleet Beacon. Wait, we go Proxy Nexus in the middle of the map into Fleet Beacon at home? Are you kidding me right now? Oh, he cancels it. Do you think that was bad mannered, or is it... There's no way. Nah, it has to be a misplay. This is not a spot where Protoss can feel so confident that they can just throw away some money and call it a day. In the end here, he basically only throws away the equivalent of a Zealot, so really not the end of the world, but... You can imagine there are some question marks as well on Lambo's side of the map. More Zealots over here. No, don't commit with them. Starport starts up. That's the Starport number 2. In the meantime, look at these units in the middle. Getting a good bit of value despite not being in big enough numbers, but... Yeah, now we have the Adaptive Talents research on the horizon too. Lambo is just flooding the map with units. These Zealots, though, have slipped through the cracks, and they are going to go to town to whatever they can hit. I really like the Spine Crawlers in the back of the mineral line there. It's going to make it all very tricky for those Zealots to actually get real value in, and it's going to allow Lambo to use his reinforcing units much better to actually clean this up. The Zealots are getting some value, but the problem is that Zaun is losing his base. More and more Templar are also dying to the Spines. And I think this is a bit of a disaster. A bit of a disaster right here for Zaun. I don't know what the proxy nexus was for, man. Like, that was insane. 2 pylons in the middle of the map and a nexus? Oh, no. We're gonna commit? Okay. I mean, again, he should be able to clean most of his up. But it's just so painful, right? It's just so many losses. You know that Lambo's economy is gonna be through the roof. I don't think you can really stop the flood. Nah. The swarm is relentless. Lambo is not gonna give away an advantage this big. And while Zaun is playing a very interesting strategy, I don't think it's gonna be good enough. Oh, he's brought a drone! Did you see the drone? Lambo was gonna build a hatch. We didn't get to see it. But he was bringing drones to the other side of the map. Again, could be a misclick. But they seem to be on the same control group as the Hydra, so I think it's intentional. Oh, actually. No, he sends them back. Wait, was he? Oh, okay. I think it was just a misplay. Man, I would have really loved to see a hatchery go down, though. That would have been so freaking funny. Okay, and with the score tied up, we now go to game number 5 of this best of 7 series. We're representing none other than ONSYDE. We have Ryang down the bottom right. For the Rebellion, we once more have Byun. Byun versus Ryang. Or Young. ONSYDE Young versus Byun. Actually, wasn't there a StarCraft 2 commentator that pronounced Byun as Byun? Maybe that's even the correct way of saying his name. I have no idea. Yeah, there have always been names out there that are a little bit more difficult, especially Zaun. Like, Zaun is a... We've had people pronounce this as like Zoun or Zaun or Zone. What made it confusing is that Zaun, when he first got good at the game, he played under the username Into the Zaun. Some people say John. Look, the OU is a very common vowel sound in Dutch, and it's pronounced as ow. So for me, it's always Zaun, okay? And that's the only way everybody should pronounce it, because I say so. No, it seemed I didn't say so. It seems that everybody has agreed that yes, it's ow, as in Zaun. Byun opting to go for a couple of Reapers here at the earlier stages of this game. Gonna sail into the main base here. Ryang's micro in that 2v2 really was very lackluster. And if he performs like that again in this 1v1-2, I think he's gonna just get dismantled by Byun in a matter of minutes. Byun opting to go for a very quick 1-1-1 here. Very quick third gas as well on the low ground. The third gas is specifically for the Raven production. There it is. And he's gonna just layer on the aggression. Not bad. Yeah, Dutch vowels are weird. So, like, in Dutch, we basically ran out of, like, you know, vowel sounds at some point. And many languages solve that problem by putting little dots on the vowels that do already exist. But in Dutch, we added more vowels by mixing different vowels together. I don't know. I didn't invent it. Don't hold me responsible, okay? Now, Byun trying to just get as much value as he can. For example, we have ow, ow, ow. There you go. There's your Dutch lesson for today. Ooh. We have so many. I know in German, for example, this is an oo. And then a U with little dots on it with an umlaut is U. But in Dutch, this is an U. And this is an oo. Yeah, this will be on the test, so I hope you have been making notes. Likewise, I hope here for Byun that he's been taking notes on where that army is positioned. He now knows at the very least it's not close to the main base, and that means the little auto turret trying its absolute best. Yeah, all the Germanic languages have basically come up with different ways of solving the vowel issue. Like, I think in Norwegian, they do the same thing, but then with, like, a different type of O. Anyways. Who knows? Maybe we should all just speak Dutch. Yeah. Just throw all those other languages, like English, in the garbage bin. Or as we say in Dutch, the prullenbak. Just gooi it in the prullenbak and then we will we will figure it out from there. Actually, no, casting StarCraft 2 in Dutch would be very cringe. Niemand wil dat horen, dat is helemaal niks. Anyways. Raven's trying to get into a nice position here together with that siege tank, much like we saw Maru do in the first game. Now, the one alien over there is stuck. Byondo didn't really enjoy being punched in the mouth very much by Maru in that first game, it seems. So now he decides to be the puncher. The punched has become the puncher. Okay, well, if you're going to be positioning your army all the way out there, yeah, don't mind if Bjorn slides around the side. No medevac available, though, for the player in red. What he does have is a second tank. I would really like to see a medevac here as well, but trying to micro that unit back. Lockout does not quite get the job done. One of the Ravens, two of the Ravens end up going down. They're at the command center, by the way, on the back of this as well for Bjorn, so it's not like he's all in with this. There is a third CC also inside of the main base for Ryung, but this is honestly a scary push. Like, this is the power of those siege tanks, man. Not a bad-mannered mule. Unlike that Nexus in the previous game, this is to repair the tank. It's actually the most cost-efficient way to do it if you don't want to send a bunch of SCVs to the other side. Because this is kind of looking like a potential choke that Ryung cannot break out of. So even though it's a bit risky to drop the mule like this, it's a lot of lost mining. If you feel like you might be able to squeeze out a victory here, then, well, why not take a chance? Raven is real low. This is painful, by the way. The resources for repairing are usually negligible, but with a game like this, it can be a gigantic pain in the butt. Now, Ryung did sneak out a full medevac, which I kind of love. Trying to go for the great equalizer, but there's a siege tank on the high ground waiting for exactly that. Okay. 2 SCVs die. Orbital Command did take a bit of a bruising. Finally, the Raven here, the final Raven, will fall. Yeah, and the siege tanks here are just gonna continuously chip away at whatever they can hit. It's a big problem. Like, Ryung could, yeah, unload units over here on the site and then try to come in from all angles. I guess we're gonna go for the great cleanup. He's gonna pull some of the boys as well. Just sacrifices a meat shield to get rid of the tanks. That was pricey, but successful. Finally, the third base will be secured. Bjorn's units may have taken a pounding on the other side of the map, but, I mean, he's now like 50% economy up on the opponent, man. It's huge. Ryung is gonna try and see if he can push the issue. How many tanks does Bjorn have to defend? Just 3. Bjorn doing Bjorn things, though. Sending out 2 full medevacs. It seems kind of dangerous. Oh. Sorry, what? PP, PPP, ASD, 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 ASD. Couple of emojis. A little bit of Korean. All right. We'll keep it running. Bjorn commits to the counterattack right now. No SCVs to kill over at that third base. He believes that he's got enough SCVs and Marines at home available to defend this, I suppose. And killing the opponent's third base is basically guaranteeing the all-in. Does he have enough, though? Command center does go down, but does Bjorn have enough to actually clean all of these units up? Ryung's army is still significant, but he just cannot find an angle against all of these red tanks, and that means that he may very well decide to just go back home. But man, going home right now is a bit of a disaster. These Marines are still getting so much value. Yeah, and now Bjorn's advantage has just grown even more significantly, because now there's no more third command center available. Ryung decides to celebrate this very significant disadvantage by starting up 2-2. Honestly, it's not really a celebration, though. This is more or less just a, I have money, so I guess I buy something type of thing. He's been raised as a good consumer. At least the medevacs will die. He's a consumer of minerals. It's called good macro. But what are you gonna do? Like, what do you do right now to try and climb back into it? I think a Doom drop is not a bad idea. Triple medevac drop into the opponent's main base. I mean, there's a single missile turret over here. What about the fight in the meantime over at the third base? Man, it's also going nowhere for Ryung. Yeah, Bjorn may have struggled against Maru. And maybe the strategy that Maru ended up going for was come up with. by Ryung. It's always hard to say. But it seems to me like Bjorn is having a very good time here against Ryung. 4th command center is kind of unnecessary. The problem here for Ryung, right? Like, his supply count is competent right now. His upgrades are still reasonable. But he's on 2 bases and we're 10 minutes in. And that means that both of those bases are gonna run out. Like, he's been punching well above his weight so far with the 2-base economy that he's had. But as long as Bjorn doesn't really let any of these attacks push him all the way back, and as long as he's got the tank sieged up, I don't think it's really going to happen. I don't think this is really a very winnable position for Ryung, who is going to at the very least force a cancel here. All right. I'm assuming he can force a cancel. Oh my god, he can't. Pain. 3rd CC fires up on location for Ryung. I wonder if maybe you should fly the old main base in that direction instead. Very little mining remains over there, but... yeah, Bjorn is struggling closing this out though, right? Like, he's ahead in basically every regard. But this is a very slippery player in blue. For Bjorn though, it's actually okay to just sit back and try to max out and then go for a big push. Ryung's army is still significant. You cannot really overextend here. Like, 2 medevacs in addition to the ones that have already gone down. Like, 2 medevacs full of units, and Ryung is squarely back in this match. He's going to try and push in here. The SCVs have not yet repaired the command center. Siege tanks, though, are sieging up. Planetary Fortress is going to be done in a moment. More tanks in blue will fall as well. Stimpack gets activated the 2nd time around in a single fight. Yeah. And with a trade between the armies, obviously that's only going to be more and more beneficial for Bjorn. GD gets gold, and that means that the Rebellion gets another point on the board. Okay, and that takes us to Gem Garden, which will be our 2nd map for our 2nd 2v2. Spawning right here in the upper left, giving the GLHF. Nobody, though, responds to him. We have Maru. Maru with his teammate, none other than Zaun. All the way in the upper right, we're looking inside of the main base of Lambo, and then Lambo has been joined by Harstem. No longer in green, because I guess in 2v2 it doesn't make any sense. Match point right here for the Shopify Rebellion, though. See if they can squeeze out a win. Difficult matchup, though. So we have Zerg Protoss going up against Protoss Terran. This map is huge, but I've got a feeling that both Maru and Zaun are pretty lethal. Yeah. Usually, though, the very defensive players, and I've mentioned this before, but I always kind of feel like if you are known as a defensive player in 1v1, that usually automatically means you're pretty good at the game, right? Like, usually the successful macro players in StarCraft 2 and 1v1 are usually very good at the game, but I don't think it's a very efficient playstyle in team games. Like, playing passively for 1v1 when you're only trying to communicate with yourself, right? You only really need your own brain to multitask everything. I think it's a lot more manageable. In team games, though, it never really seems to work out the same way. I always feel like being the aggressor in team games is far better. Now, by the way, this is a map that I'm not too familiar with, Gem Garden. Looking at the mini-map alone, I have seen like a couple of games on it, but man, does this map just seem gigantic. Look how tiny the little squares are on the mini-map for the main bases of the players. How large is this map? Gem Garden. Usually Liquipedia keeps track of that sort of thing. Oh, no. As far as the size goes, it literally says X. So I guess nobody bothered ever adding that to Liquipedia. Very nice. Now that I've mentioned it, though, maybe somebody will be polite enough to actually edit it, which is one of the nice things, of course, about Liquipedia. Everybody can edit it. Shout out to the absolute legends that spend so much time on updating all of those sorts of things. The unsung heroes of the community. It's the same for the map makers, by the way. This map, for example, has been made by Avex. Avex has made many, many maps over the years. Yet, you know, these are like people that don't quite stand in the spotlight. They're very instrumental to the game. Like, for example, map makers, but also people that update the wiki and all the rest of it, right? Like, all of these tournament pages manually get edited. But yeah, all the folks that are making maps are critical to the game. And not a lot of people are familiar with them. which, you know, as I guess the job they signed up for. But I do think it's nice to put the spotlight on them every once in a while. Avex, though, has made many, many maps over the years. It actually says it on his own Wikipedia page. He has made what looks like 7 different 1v1 maps. Maps like, for example, Backwater. Like Blackpink. Remember Blackpink? Not the K-pop group. The map. Apparently, in total, 7,230 tournament games have been played on Avex's maps. There you go. Kinda sick. Blackpink in your area? Okay, sorry. I apologize. Trying to get a little bit of worker harassment done right over here are the players in blue, but not really achieving all too much. Maru is going to be playing Terran Mech. Zaun joining in with a little bit of Phoenix production. All right, so Battle Mech together with Phoenixes against, what do we have in the meantime on the other side of the map? We have some Oracle. All right, Oracle's building here for Hearthstone. Let's see if he can get any value done. What is Lambo going for? Last time he went for a very quick Spire, and this time, or in this particular instance, he decides to just go for a quick +1 melee. I like the unit composition here for ONSYDE a lot better, man. Like, Banshees, or sorry, Phoenixes are just always nice to have. And then obviously Battle Mech just also hits very hard. Harsham trying to get whatever value he can. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like Zerg kind of tends to be a weak link in 2v2. Maybe I'm mistaken. But, like, what is Zerg going to do? It just doesn't really seem to flow with any of the Protoss or Terran units. Like, Zerg really is designed to be a bit of a punching bag. And again, I always have the vibe that being aggressive is just better. I guess you can play Ling Bane. But Ling Bane at this stage of the game is just not ideal against Blue Flame Hellions and all the rest of it. So we're kind of waiting for Lambo to decide what he wants to do. Considering the timing of the lair, I think he wants to be punched. Yeah, he wants to sit here and just take a bunch of units on his side of the map to a party on creep. I don't know if Harstam is excited for that sort of thing. He's trying to go into Blink Stalkers of his own. Little Zergling run-bys over here, though, are nice. He finds 2 newly building bases. Hellions, in the meantime, sneak around the site. Looks like Mr. Maru is hosting a drone barbecue. Stalkers here of Harstam are trying to save some of this, but it's already so much damage done. Worker count right here of Lambo has gone down all the way to 50, probably losing about a dozen workers there. Looks like both of the Nexus, or both of the bases, both the Nexus as well as the command center have survived. Zaun cleaning up a bunch of freebies. Yep. They will take a few probes as well on their way out. This new Nexus here by Harstam is not gonna get roasted by Hellions, but I don't know if the drones are gonna be as lucky as well. This seems a bit... Oh no, the Harstam Stalkers are body blocking. Oh no! It's a disaster! Lambo right-clicked his drones away, and then the Stalkers were like, "Don't worry, sir, I got this!" And they body blocked all of the drones. The drones clumped up together, and then more of them got roasted. What about the little Zergling run-by over here in the meantime? Yeah, not nearly as hype. Not nearly as hype as those Blue Flame units joining in. Okay. Lambo desperately trying to get some value out of the Ling run-bys, but it doesn't feel very impactful at all. In the meantime, what do we have? Skytos. Carriers are going to be joining the battlefield. We've already had a look at some Battlecruisers earlier. Now we're going to be seeing some carriers dominate the skies as well. Spire in the meantime coming up for Lambo. Dark Shrine building here for Harstam. Harstam is going up to 4 base economy, which is pretty sweet. I would imagine Dark Templar are just exponentially worse in team games, right? Like, the odds of the opponents having, like, at least one of the 2 opponents having some form of detection should be quite big. Okay. Ooh, Stalkers trying their absolute best. There's not that many tanks available, though. Command center here, okay, takes a bit of a beating. Looks like the siege tank does survive. A load of the Phoenixes also got sniped. Looks like the Phoenixes, though, are now just being permanently replaced. Zaun going into a mama ship, whilst Maru is still droning up, well, or droning down, the opponent's side of the base. Ugh, okay. Yeah, that was expensive. Very expensive. Maru's starting to add on a lot more tanks now. So they were playing a very aggressive early game. I guess with the transition towards Skytals, they have to slow things down a little bit. I don't mind it. I think in this instance, it's not such a bad idea anymore. But it is giving Harstem and Lambo a lot of wiggle room. Maru had Lambo exactly where he needed him to. But obviously, you can never really count the Zerg player out. Lambo has been holding down the drone button very efficiently. 4 SD, 4 SD, 4... That's usually how the Zerg players will make drones. And he's up to a reasonable amount again. Corruptor count is growing. Okay, we have some Dark Templar now. Really? Alright. Alright, we're just gonna hang out with our newly found buddies. Got a feeling the Dark Shrine is kind of useless here. 2 sets of rocks. Maru is seeing that there are indeed some units working away at the backdoor entrance. He's making Thors, by the way, of his own. Don't really know if he needs any Thors, but I guess they're a powerful enough unit to just sort of add into the mix. Zaun not really positioned to be able to deal with the units here on the other side, but... Okay. Blue Flame Hellions. Trying to move around the side again, too. More of the drones will likely die. These are effectively free units for Maru. His main bottleneck right now will be gas, and likewise as well for Zaun. So Zaun is not going to be giving any of it, meaning that you may as well spend some of your leftover minerals on a bunch of Hellions, getting even more worker kills. And while the Hellions are not gonna, go back home, I don't think they will make it. This is still very effective harassment. Any drone kill here is nice. Yeah, so we have a full-on Skytals army here, together with Terran Mech, against a Corruptor Zergling army with a lot of gateway units. I just don't really like it. I really like the unit composition for Team Red here way more than Team Blue. Like, what is Stalker Ling going to do? Like, Stalker Ling, Zealot, Corruptor against the maxed out version here for ONSYDE. I don't think it's going to be ideal. Some of the Dark Templar trying to get some value in, but not really achieving too much. Prism goes in around the side, and that obviously is something to keep in mind. These gateway heavy armies can just tear up the bases from the inside out. There's plenty of units available right now, but these maps are gigantic. Bunch of Dark Templar going in around the side too, but look at Zaun. Zaun knew that these bases would be far apart for his... yeah, there's no way, dude. He knew that, like, this would be difficult to defend with his Skytals army, the very slow-moving force. Well, photon cannons will, do the trick just fine. Against Zergling run-bys. Against Dark Templar, Zealot, everything else. How many Corruptors are we on? 30. Okay. 30 Corruptors is actually respectable. A couple of mispositioned units over here for Zaun. Sleeping on the job just a tad. And you know what? Now, indeed, Lambo and Harstem are getting a really stellar engagement. The mothership is going to go down next. A lot of the units, though, are fighting inside of the time warp. That's a lot of lost damage. Oh, God. We actually decide to blink in on top of the siege tanks. Was that a mistake there from Harstem? Harstem decided to just sort of throw in the units and hope that he was going to clean it up. But that was a very significant blunder. Maru there with his maxed out mech army needs to be respected. I like the start of that fight. Did not like the end of the fight there for the Rebellion at all. New carriers are building here for Zaun. Zergling Corruptor flyby, I guess, down to the bottom of the map. But now Maru is on the hunt. Maru's maxed out. Or mech'd out, I guess. Okay, sorry, I apologize. Caustic spray in the meantime here on a bunch of those units. Not bad. But my real concern is this army in red. Like, how in the world are Harstem and Lambo going to stop it? I guess the main thing here is that Maru could overextend. Like, this is not a cheap set of units to lose, and he doesn't have that many units. Or, sorry, he doesn't have that many resources, rather. They really don't benefit from a base race right now. I think that's exactly what Harstem and Lambo could benefit from. Lambo just flying around. If he can get on top of the carrier production, like he knows where the starports are. That's exactly where he's headed. Yeah, if he can get on top of this, he can just snipe the units as they pop out of starports. Not bad. Bunch of the carriers, though, did make their way towards the safety of the Thors. I think we're going to have to send the army back home. Harstem is not going to be able to hold this by himself. Unless he can find somehow, some way 17 Dark Templar on top of the units and then somehow, some way Maru without any form of detection. Okay. Maru and Zaun have made their way to Harstem's main base. This is where all of his production is at. Right now, there's not going to be any more reinforcements here for Harstem. Lambo is maxed. Okay, Blinding Cloud is good. Zealots coming in from the north on top of all of these Thors. In the meantime, the Corruptors swoop in. Bunch of Ultras? You know what? This is way better here for Team Blue than I thought it was going to be, although the Thors still live, man. It's so crazy. These units have actually been absolute MVPs. It looks to me like Maru won the first game of this this entire best of 7 by going for a mass battlecruiser, and now he seems to be getting the job done mostly off of the back of mass Thor. Maru is probably hurt of normal unit compositions, but he's decided to throw it all out of the window. He does not care anymore. This Terran player has ascended. He doesn't need to worry anymore about such normal things. Such common things. Like irregular unit compositions. Ugh, disgusting. That's another Nexus falling. And that Dark Shrine that's been very annoying to play against is going to be targeted down by Maru next. I guess what Team Blue here was doing, right? I think that aggressive blink forward from Harstem was really, was a big mistake. But Team Blue was very focused on trying to counter Skytles. And they countered Skytles, all right. But they just sort of let the Terran mech player do whatever he likes. And Maru needs to be respected in games like this. Now, we do have a lot of Corruptors going in. The Caustic Spray ability is actually kind of tearing apart Maru's bases. He's going mass missile turret to make it difficult here for those Corruptors to just sort of fly around and wait for all of those cooldowns to become available. Now we have a whole lot of Void Rays joining in too. More and more carriers are making their way home. And with those Corruptors getting sniped, is Team ONSYDE who evens up the score. Okay, and that means that this series will come down to the ace match. Spotting right here in the final game of this best of 7, we have none other than Zaun. His opponent in the upper right, we're looking at none other than Lambo's main hatchery. Now, sadly, that does mean that Scarlet apparently did not come out to represent the Rebellion today. Maybe she couldn't play? Would have been fun. Anyhow, it's been an absolute banger. Big shout out to Wardy for hosting another team league. From what I understand, it is a gigantic pain in order to, like, if you're hosting a 1v1 tournament, right, that's you know, it can be kind of frustrating, but Wardy has been doing that for many, many years. Hosting a team league, however, means that you have to get a lot of people at the same time in the same location to, like, participate in the same thing. It's a lot of organizing, and I can imagine it is very frustrating. Now, from what I understand, there can be some difficulties behind the scenes, but big shout out to Wardy for always hosting these tournaments. Not just the team leagues. Wardy honestly is carrying the StarCraft 2 scene on his shoulders. Certainly the most prolific tournament organizer out there right now. Absolute beast. Anyways. White Rabbit is going to be our final game for today. Interesting choice not to send out someone like Maru, right? Should we, if you know you're going to be playing the ace match, should you not go for the highest ranked player on your team? I guess, So this is like a decision you have to make as a team as well, right? If you assume here, as the Rebellion, that ONSYDE is going to be sending out Maru, do you really want to be sending out, for example, Björn? The odds of him running into another TVT for the final game, pretty significant. Now, I don't really know the exact rules for the Team League as far as player selection goes. Every Team League has always done this slightly differently. But, yeah, it's an interesting choice to send out both Lambo as well as Zaun here for the final game. I think a lot of people would have assumed it would be something like Maru versus Beyond yet again, although there may be some rules actually preventing an identical matchup a second time around. So maybe you would have to send out players too. I don't know. Anyhow. Actually, I say that, but obviously we already had Lambo versus Zaun in, what was it? The 4th game? Lambo versus Zaun, yeah, that was the 4th game. Lambo ended up winning that one, so we already have had the exact same matchup. Yeah, interesting not to then send out both Maru and then also Björn again. Alright, anyhow. It could also be that both teams kind of assumed, right, that the opponents were going to be sending out their strongest player. So therefore they tried to, like, metagame them, and then you end up with no Terran in the match at all. Which is kind of interesting. Everybody probably expected it to be a TVT. Then they tried to metagame it and make it a Protoss versus Terran or a Zerg versus Terran. And then we end up with a Zerg versus Protoss instead. Well, I really did like what Lambo was doing on Mothership. I think that was a very strong showing in general. Oracle goes out. It could also be actually you can only send out players so many times in general. So since Maru has already played in the 2v2, I wonder... I don't know. I'd actually have to look at the exact tournament rules. But that requires reading a very long list of rules and then interpreting it as well. Ugh. Gross. Second gateway right now to complete the wall off right here for Zaun. Third Nexus has been planted down indeed. I wonder if actually, like, there are probably rules to limit the amount of times you can send out one player. Like, that makes sense. Probably only twice. But with Scarlet apparently being unavailable here, I wonder if that also has kind of changed the stuff up a little bit. And all of those rules are just so difficult. I guess it's very much so up to the referee's interpretation that day. Which, in this case, is going to be Wardy. Alright, anyways. It's going to be a Twilight Council here. Lair coming up. 4.5 minutes of in-game time. A little bit sooner than the previous time that these two matched. Ooh, we're going to go for a good old Glaives attack. Zaun ready to effectively go for an all-in. Now, last time around, Lambo did make a Roach Warren. Oh, he makes it again. I don't think the Professor would skip out on something like it, but it is in a location that is maybe not so quickly seen. Yeah, it's over at the 3rd. Zaun has not had vision of it, and those Zerglings with Revelation on them are not close enough. This is a phenomenal build for Zaun if he assumes that it's going to be a skipped Roach Warren. Like, if it's pure Ling, this is the type of attack that can deal critical amounts of damage. It can actually just straight up win the game. But if Roaches can be built, I think it's okay. Lambo is droning super hard, though. He needs to make sure that he starts up some unit production right about right now. Roach Warren is done. He was probably waiting for those Roaches. Starts up some production right now and also makes a wall. Okay, triple Evo here to block those Adepts from coming in. That does mean that the 3rd base over here is very, very vulnerable. But maybe he can buy enough time. Maybe Zaun is going to just try and break open the natural and not really pay attention to it so much. Zaun actually shading backwards, giving his opponent the respect, but he's buying... Okay, now Lambo is buying so much time. Like, if Lambo can actually just live for like another 30 seconds, his eco advantage is going to kick in massively. He's even starting up Roach speed at this point in time. Should really saturate this extra gas inside of the natural, but he's busy microing all of these units. This Glaive Adept push rather is doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. Big problem here for Zaun. Therefore, a big problem for ONSYDE. Not nearly as good an early game, it seems, as the last time they played against each other. And even though he didn't lose nearly as many Adepts this time, now he built way more. The problem with Adepts is that they just fall off so hard. We have 9 Overlords coming up here, though, for Lambo. That is not a mistake. I think the man is planning on making Roaches until the end of the game. We're going Overlord speed. We're going Roach speed. I think it is time to make mass Roach. And try to see if you can force Zaun out of it. Here we go. We're doing a little bit of a march. Maybe the Glaive to Depths can actually achieve something now? Man, you kind of have to make the call at some point. I feel like this middle of the Roach Adept play is really bad. Because they just don't do anything. Like, if you use them in a straight-up engagement, they're just going to die. They're going to tank a little bit of damage for those Stalkers, I suppose, but the Stalkers are going to need a hell of a lot more. Look at the supply count now already. Massively in favor of Lambo. The Queens are also part of this engagement soon. We have a little bit of a creep highway building. Okay, now the Adepts have found a bit of an engagement now. Single Queen does end up going down, and they're going to try and chase all of this. But in the meantime, the main army here of Protoss is being destroyed. Queens are yet again inside of the private jets. They'll be dropped onto creep because of the OVs, and that means they have some transfusion energy available, and they can really be used as tanks of this party. In the meantime, though, the Adepts are actually getting some real value in. This is forcing Lambo to go fully committed. Lambo does not really have a home to go home to. And this army here doesn't look that brutal. Imagine if there were like an Immortal or two in the mix. This would be very holdable for Zaun, but I think this third Nexus at the bare minimum is toast. Can Zaun actually deal enough damage to like still be okay in a two-base economy situation? More and more Stalkers are being warped in. The Queens are still up. Looks like this Oracle is gonna get sniped by Brenda and Karen. It is messy for both players. Those Adepts, man. Those Adepts have actually just put in so much work. Kind of insane, right? After not committing, he finally committed. Oh, we have some nice little Queen juggling, though, in the Overlord. Lambo pretending like he's got a Warp Prism. Reinforcing Roaches are showing up. Some leftover units over at the third Nexus. They're gonna clean all of those leftover... Never mind, they just got pulled into the main fight too. Apparently Lambo is smelling blood. He does not want to be satisfied with just a kill on a Nexus. Maybe leaving a couple Lings behind to finish the job and guarantee the kill would be smart. But he is smelling blood in the water right now. And I think he's right. I think he's right. This is looking like a victory for the Shopify Rebellion against ONSYDE. An absolute banger of a best of 7. Some beautiful StarCraft too, it has to be said. Yeah, this is so fun. So we've had Terran versus Terran, we've had Protoss versus Protoss, we've had PVZs, we've obviously had 2v2s as well. An absolute banger. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please take the second that it takes to hit the like button down below. I know it's kind of annoying, but it really does help. But yeah, big shout out to Wardy for organizing this tournament and all of the players for participating. This is highly entertaining stuff. GG.